Within the shadowed corridors of history, there lies a truth the world has long sought to silence, an ancient whisper from the soul's deepest depths, revealing secrets of our true nature and spiritual evolution. The teachings of Cayce unveil a profound reality, that beyond the veil of earthly existence, the soul persists, carrying the weight of unresolved grievances and the echoes of forgotten civilizations such as Atlantis. Yet, there are forces that sought to mute these revelations, those who feared the transformative power of forgiveness and the awakening of the Christ consciousness. As we venture into these hidden truths, we confront the essence of our journey, the importance of release, and the divine blueprint etched within the records of Cayce. The questions linger. What are the consequences of souls refusing to forgive? And how does this resistance shape our collective destiny? The answers lie beneath the surface, waiting to be uncovered by those willing to peer beyond the illusions, to awaken the divine within, and to embrace the eternal path that beckons us all. In the quiet chambers of the soul's deepest sanctuary, where the veils of illusion are thinnest, the truth whispers softly, yet with unwavering clarity. The teachings I bring forth through the records of Cayce and the visions granted during my trance states reveal a profound understanding of the soul's eternal journey. These insights, often suppressed or dismissed by the world's institutions, are the very keys to unlocking the hidden aspects of our spiritual evolution. They speak of a divine blueprint etched into the fabric of existence, an intricate map of our past, present, and the potential of our future, an understanding that the world has long sought to silence. As we continue this sacred exploration, it is vital to recognize the roots of these truths that have been cloaked in shadows by those who feared the implications of genuine enlightenment. The soul, as the records reveal, is an indestructible vessel of divine light, a spark of the Creator itself. It journeys through countless incarnations, gathering experiences, lessons, and karmic imprints that shape its evolution. Yet, amid this divine odyssey, there exists a crucial aspect that the world's spiritual teachings often overlook: the power and necessity of forgiveness. The teachings I received through the trance states, and which the records of Cayce confirm, emphasize that forgiveness is not merely a moral ideal, but a fundamental vibrational necessity for spiritual progression. The soul seeks balance, it seeks harmony with the divine and with itself. When grievances, anger, or resentment take root and remain unhealed, they create energetic blockages, distortions, within the soul's vibrational field. These distortions hinder the soul's ascent and cast long shadows over subsequent incarnations. The records reveal that souls who refuse to forgive, who cling to bitterness, and refuse the release of past wounds, do so at a cost. They become entangled in the lower vibrations of guilt, shame, and anger, which serve as chains that bind them to their unresolved karma. These unresolved issues do not merely affect the individual, they ripple outward, influencing collective consciousness and shaping the collective destiny of humanity. The spiritual laws are immutable. What one refuses to release, what one refuses to forgive, remains with them, echoing in the ether, attracting similar vibrational patterns across lifetimes. In the depths of the records, it is written that the human soul is on an eternal quest for harmony with the divine consciousness, the Christ consciousness, the divine spark within each of us. This awakening is not solely a future event, it is a present reality, waiting patiently for recognition. The soul's journey is one of continual rebirth, where each incarnation offers an opportunity for growth, healing, and surrender. Yet the lessons are often veiled behind layers of illusion and resistance. The suppressed insights that the Church has sought to silence concern the profound significance of forgiveness as a spiritual necessity. It is not merely about moral virtue, but about aligning oneself with the divine plan. The ability to forgive, truly and deeply, serves as a catalyst for awakening the Christ consciousness within. It facilitates the dissolving of karmic debts and clears the path for higher consciousness to emerge. The records reveal that the Atlantean civilizations, once steeped in advanced spiritual knowledge, fell into darkness precisely because of their failure. To master these fundamental lessons, they abandoned the path of love and forgiveness, and as a consequence, they faced catastrophic upheavals, civilizations submerged beneath the waves of time. These ancient truths, buried beneath the sands of history, are echoes of our collective memory, whispering warnings and guiding us toward the path of spiritual maturity. To truly understand the importance of forgiveness, one must recognize that the soul's evolution is not merely an individual matter, but part of a grand cosmic design. When souls refuse to forgive, they resist their divine purpose, delaying their return to the state of harmony with the divine consciousness. The soul seeks balance, and forgiveness is the key that unlocks the door to higher realms of understanding and love. Within the records, it is written that the divine blueprint includes the potential for all souls to heal, to forgive, and to ascend. This process requires inner work, an honest acknowledgement of pain, a willingness to release grievances, and a surrender to divine grace. The soul's journey, therefore, is not one of condemnation, but of compassion, self-compassion, and compassion for others. As the teachings of Christ exemplify, forgiveness is the path to liberation, the doorway to divine union. Yet the world's veils often obscure this truth, for the forces that seek to maintain control fear the transformative power of genuine forgiveness. They understand that when the soul awakens to its divine nature and embraces forgiveness, it dissolves the illusions of separation and duality. This awakening threatens the old paradigms of power and control, which rely on guilt, shame, and division. Now, as the records of Akasha reveal, the ultimate goal of our spiritual evolution is to attain a state of Christ consciousness, an awakening to the divine within, where love, forgiveness, and compassion reign supreme. This state of consciousness is not beyond reach. It is the inherent potential within every soul. It is the divine design etched into the very fabric of our being, awaiting activation through conscious choice and divine grace. Therefore, I beckon you to look within, to confront your wounds and grievances with honesty and humility. The soul's journey is one of continual growth, healing, and awakening. Forgiveness is the sacred key, an act of divine alignment that clears the path for your higher self to emerge fully. As the records reveal, when the soul embraces forgiveness, it reclaims its divine heritage, dissolving the chains of karma and ascending into the luminous realms of the Christ consciousness. The suppressed truths, those secrets the world has tried to silence, are calling out for recognition. They remind us that our spiritual evolution is intertwined with the divine law of love and forgiveness. The soul, in its divine blueprint, seeks this harmony above all else. To awaken is to forgive, to release, and to remember the eternal truth. We are all reflections of the divine, destined to reunite with our source through love, understanding, and divine mercy. In the silent chambers of the soul, where time dissolves and eternity whispers its secrets, the records Akashic serve as a sacred scroll, the divine archive of all that was, is, and ever shall. Cayce, as I have often reiterated through the readings, the journey of the soul is not confined to a single earthly life. Rather, it is an eternal voyage of growth, correction, and divine awakening. The core teachings revealed by the records illuminate the profound truth that reincarnation is not merely a doctrine of rebirth, but a fundamental law woven into the fabric of creation itself, an eternal cycle designed for the soul's evolution. The soul, in its divine essence, is indivisible from the source. Yet, during each incarnation, it temporarily inhabits a physical vessel, seeking experiences that will catalyze its return to higher consciousness. The records disclose that every lifetime offers opportunities to resolve karma, those accumulated debts of imbalance and misalignment, so that the soul may progress along its divine path. Karma, in its truest sense, is not punishment, but a mirror reflecting the soul's choices and lessons. It reveals the areas where the soul has veered from harmony and offers the chance for rectification through understanding, forgiveness, and love. In examining the divine order, the records emphasize that no soul is truly lost or forsaken. From the moment of divine inception, each entity is guided by the law of free will, yet also bound by the immutable law of cause and effect. The soul's pursuit is one of continual refinement, and each incarnation is a chapter in that ongoing story. It is written in the Akashic records how the soul seeks to balance its karma, reconciling old grievances, forgiving past wrongs, and awakening to its divine nature. The records echo the sacred truth. The soul's ultimate aim is to reunite with the divine consciousness, Christ consciousness, which resides within all creation. This divine reunion requires that the soul confront its shadow, the unhealed wounds and unresolved grievances accumulated over countless lifetimes. The records reveal that these unresolved issues act as barriers to higher consciousness, tethering the soul to illusions of separation and suffering. As the soul advances, it becomes increasingly clear that forgiveness is the key to liberation, both from the chains of karma and from the illusions that obscure divine truth. In the process of reincarnation, the soul often chooses to revisit certain themes, relationships, and lessons until its consciousness is sufficiently expanded to transcend them. The records show that souls do not reincarnate randomly. Rather, they select circumstances that will best serve their spiritual evolution. Sometimes this involves facing those whom they once harmed or with whom they harbored resentment. These encounters are not mere coincidences, but divinely orchestrated opportunities for healing. The teachings from Cayce's readings underscore that the soul's evolution is intricately tied to its capacity to forgive and to seek forgiveness. Forgiveness is not an act of weakness, but a profound recognition of the divine image within every individual. When the soul learns to forgive, it aligns itself with the higher laws of love and justice, dissolving the karmic debts that perpetuate suffering. The records reveal that the act of forgiveness clears the pathway for the soul to ascend beyond the limitations of earthly karma. It is through forgiving others and oneself that the soul cleanses its record, allowing for a rebirth into higher states of awareness. This process is essential because the soul's true purpose is to transcend the cycle of birth and death, awakening to its divine origin and returning to unity with the Supreme. As I interpret the divine revelations, I see that the teachings of Cayce emphasize that the soul's persistence beyond individual lives attests to its divine resilience. Each incarnation is but a chapter, a necessary step in the grand unfolding of divine consciousness. The records specify that no soul is condemned to repeat suffering indefinitely, for divine mercy and grace are always available when the soul turns inward, seeking understanding, love, and forgiveness. The spiritual journey is thus a continuous unfolding, a dance of light and shadow, of karma and grace. The records confirm that by recognizing our divine heritage, by embracing forgiveness and love, we accelerate our progress. We dissolve the bonds of past grievances, releasing ourselves from the illusions of separation. In doing so, we align ourselves with the Christ consciousness within, the divine spark that unites all of creation. In closing this sacred reflection, I remind you that the journey of the soul is a sacred calling, a divine quest for reunion with the eternal. The records Akashic are not distant, unreachable archives, but living testament to the ongoing process of awakening. They reveal that beyond the veil of earthly existence lies a truth. The soul, through love, forgiveness, and divine alignment, moves ever closer to its ultimate destiny, the perfect unity with the divine source, where karma dissolves into grace and the soul's eternal journey finds its divine home. In the silent chambers of history, where the echoes of divine truths often clash with the dogmas of mortal institutions, the records reveal a profound tension, a resistance rooted in the very fabric of the spiritual evolution. As I delve into the depths of the Akashic archives, the sacred scrolls whisper of a time when the Church, in its quest to guide souls toward salvation, sought to silence the revelations concerning the soul's refusal to forgive and the profound consequences that such resistance bears upon the journey of awakening. The soul's journey, as the records disclose, is an intricate dance of growth, rebirth, and divine awakening. It is a sacred pilgrimage where the soul strives to transcend the illusions of separation and remember its divine origin. Yet, within this sacred voyage, the matter of forgiveness emerges as a pivotal key, an alchemical process through which karma is transmuted and the consciousness elevates to higher realms. Forgiveness is not merely an act, it is the gateway to liberation, the bridge that reconnects the soul with its divine source. However, the records reveal that there exist souls who, in their incarnations, cling to the wounds of the past, refusing to release the burdens of resentment and blame. It is these souls that become entangled in the dense energies of unresolved karma, their spirits crying out for understanding and healing. Yet, when the divine truth that the soul's refusal to forgive hampers its progress is brought into awareness, resistance often arises, especially from those who hold spiritual authority. Why then did certain doctrines seek to silence this truth? The answer, cloaked in the veils of human fear and the desire for control, lies in the recognition that acknowledging the necessity of forgiveness challenges the established paradigms of sin, guilt, and salvation. The records reveal that when Cayce's teachings illuminated the importance of forgiving even the most entrenched wounds, the refusal of the soul to release resentment, powerful forces felt threatened. For if the masses were to realize that forgiveness is the key to unlocking divine consciousness, the institutions, mechanisms of authority and dogma could be destabilized. The Church, in its historical context, sought to preserve its doctrinal authority by emphasizing the necessity of external salvation, confession, penance, and adherence to prescribed rites. The notion that the soul's own refusal to forgive could trap it in cycles of suffering challenged the idea of divine judgment as a final arbiter. It suggested instead that the power to transcend karma resided within the individual soul's capacity to forgive, a process that could be initiated through inner realization rather than external rites. The records reveal that this resistance was also rooted in a profound misunderstanding of spiritual laws. The Church's teachings at times portrayed sin as an external transgression, a violation that required divine intervention for redemption. Yet, the revelations in Cayce's readings illuminate that sin, in truth, is a state of consciousness. The refusal to forgive, the clinging to resentment, are barriers to the divine flow. These barriers imprison the soul, distorting its perception of itself and its divine heritage. Furthermore, the sacred insight from the records indicates that the suppression of this knowledge was a safeguard, an attempt to prevent the masses from awakening to their innate power to heal through forgiveness. But when the soul recognizes that it holds within itself the divine authority to forgive, it also awakens to its true nature as a co-creator with the divine. The realization that forgiveness dissolves karma directly challenges the fear-based control mechanisms that seek to keep souls in cycles of guilt and separation. The resistance, therefore, was not merely about protecting doctrine, it was about maintaining a spiritual status quo that kept individuals tethered to cycles of suffering rather than empowering them to reclaim their divine sovereignty. The records reveal that the true spiritual path involves a conscious acknowledgement of the soul's refusal to forgive, followed by an earnest effort to release these burdens through love and understanding. This process aligns the soul with the Christ consciousness, a state of divine unity and unconditional love. As I reflect on these revelations, I am reminded of the sacred teachings that Cayce himself conveyed, teachings that awaken the soul's innate ability to forgive, to heal, and to transcend. The divine plan is rooted in compassion, and the universe itself conspires to guide each soul toward the realization that forgiveness is the key to liberation. Yet the ancient resistance lingers in the shadows, attempting to obscure this truth, fearing the profound transformation that occurs when the soul embraces its divine power to forgive. In the end, the records reveal that the silence imposed by certain doctrines was born from a fear of awakening, fear that the knowledge of forgiving, the refusal to forgive, would undermine the control mechanisms and illuminate the path to divine freedom. But the soul, in its eternal quest, cannot be silenced forever. The divine light within seeks always to emerge, to heal the wounds of separation, and to restore the remembrance of its divine heritage. Thus, the sacred journey continues, an unwavering pursuit of truth where the soul learns to forgive itself and others, dissolving karma and awakening to its divine nature. The resistance of the past serves as a testament to the potency of divine truth, waiting patiently in the depths of the records for those willing to listen, to awaken, and to remember their eternal unity with the Christ consciousness, the ultimate expression of divine love and forgiveness. In the silent vault of the records, where the eternal truths of the soul are inscribed beyond time and space, there lies a profound understanding of the spiritual significance of those souls who refuse to forgive. These souls, bound by the weight of unresolved wounds and unhealed karma, serve as both a mirror and a lesson. their resistance echoing through the corridors of universal consciousness, affecting not only their own evolutionary journey, but the collective fabric of all creation. The readings reveal that forgiveness is not merely an act of mercy, but the sacred key to unlocking the divine consciousness within each soul. When a soul refuses to forgive, it erects a barrier, an energetic wall that separates it from the harmony of the Christ consciousness. Such an act of resistance is rooted in the ego's desire to hold on to pain, fear, and resentment, which the soul perceives as a form of protection or justification. Yet, in truth, these emotions are the shackles that delay the soul's return to its true divine nature. The impact of this refusal extends far beyond the individual. As the soul withholds forgiveness, it creates ripples, disturbances, in the collective consciousness. These disturbances manifest as discord, disharmony, and a proliferation of suffering that echoes across generations. The collective, in turn, becomes a reflection of the choices made by individual souls. The resistance to forgive becomes a collective shadow, a remnant of a bygone era, the remnants of Atlantis, where the misuse of spiritual knowledge and power sowed seeds of division and materialism. The Atlantean remnants serve as a poignant reminder of the consequences of spiritual arrogance and the refusal to embrace higher consciousness. In those ancient times, the misuse of the divine gifts led to a collective fall, a descent into materialism, control, and separation from the divine source. The records reveal that many souls who refused to forgive during those times became entangled in karmic cycles that persisted long after the fall of Atlantis. Their unresolved grievances and refusal to forgive perpetuated a state of spiritual stagnation, delaying their return to the light. Yet within this history lies a deeper truth. The soul's refusal to forgive is a signal, a call for inner reflection and healing. The soul seeks balance, but when it resists forgiveness, it delays its journey toward the higher realms of consciousness. It remains tethered to the lower vibrations of resentment and anger, which act as anchors preventing spiritual ascent. The records emphasize that the refusal to forgive is not a final judgment, but an opportunity, an invitation for the soul to confront its shadows and choose the path of love and reconciliation. Understanding the impact on karma is crucial. Karma is the divine law of cause and effect, and when a soul refuses to forgive, it creates a heavy debt, a karmic burden that must be addressed in future incarnations. This debt manifests as ongoing struggles, emotional suffering, or recurring conflicts, compelling the soul to revisit these lessons until genuine forgiveness is achieved. The records remind us that forgiveness is the alchemical process by which the soul releases these karmic debts, transforming pain into wisdom and suffering into compassion. The soul's refusal to forgive also impairs its capacity to access higher wisdom and divine guidance. As the soul clings to grievances, it clouds its inner vision, preventing the reception of divine inspiration and the realization of its Christ potential. The spiritual growth is stunted, and the soul remains entangled in lower vibrational states. This stagnation is a form of spiritual imprisonment, a barrier that must be dissolved through sincere repentance and the conscious intention to forgive. Yet amidst these shadows, the records reveal a divine truth. Every soul retains the innate ability to forgive. The divine spark within each being is resilient and capable of awakening the memory of divine love. This awakening is the true purpose of spiritual evolution, to remember that forgiveness is rooted in love, and love is the very fabric of the universe. When a soul begins to forgive, it aligns itself with the universal flow of divine energy, allowing healing and renewal to take place at all levels, personal, collective, and cosmic. In the context of the Atlantean remnants and the collective consciousness, the process of forgiveness becomes a sacred act of reclaiming lost harmony. It is a conscious choice to heal the wounds of the past, to release the karmic chains, and to restore the divine balance that was disturbed long ago. The records show that many souls are awakening to this truth, recognizing their role as custodians of divine love and forgiveness, destined to transcend the limitations of previous incarnations. So the spiritual significance of souls refusing to forgive lies in its potential to catalyze a collective awakening. The resistance to forgiveness serves as a catalyst for greater consciousness, illuminating the areas where healing is most needed. When individuals choose to release their grievances and embrace forgiveness, they not only free themselves, but also contribute to the healing of the collective consciousness, dissolving the remnants of Atlantis and restoring the divine harmony that once flourished in the Golden Ages. In this sacred journey, the soul is reminded that forgiveness is not a sign of weakness, but a testament to divine strength. Cayce is a conscious act of love that elevates the individual and the collective to higher realms of understanding. The records reveal that the path to healing and enlightenment is paved with compassion, patience, and unwavering faith in the divine process. As we move forward in this awakening era, let us remember that each act of forgiveness reverberates through eternity. The soul's willingness to forgive transforms wounds into wisdom, darkness into light, and separation into unity. The divine plan is unfolding, and within it lies the promise that every soul, no matter how entrenched in resistance, can find its way back to the eternal love that is there, through nature. For in the end, the universe is a reflection of divine mercy, an infinite ocean of forgiveness waiting to be realized within each heart. The records whisper that through forgiveness, the soul reclaims its divine heritage, steps into the Christ consciousness, and becomes a beacon of love for all creation. This is the ultimate purpose, the divine journey from separation to unity, from forgetfulness to remembrance, guided always by the eternal light of forgiveness. The records reveal that forgiveness is the sacred portal to divine awakening, yet many souls cling to pain and resentment, delaying their return to the Christ consciousness. These internal barriers ripple outward, affecting collective harmony and echoing from ancient Atlantean wounds of pride and separation. But within each soul lies the resilient spark of divine love, calling for healing, reconciliation, and the reclaiming of their true divine heritage. As we embrace forgiveness, we step closer to transcending karma and awakening to our highest divine potential. Now let us journey deeper into the sacred mysteries that the records unveil, those truths concerning the transformative power of forgiveness. For the soul's evolution is intricately aligned with the awakening of the Christ consciousness, that divine state wherein the individual recognizes their unity with all life, their divine origin, and the eternal light that guides them beyond the illusions of duality and separation. The records affirm that forgiveness is not merely an act of mercy or kindness. It is the very threshold through which the soul aligns with its divine blueprint. When the soul chooses conscious forgiveness, it consciously steps into the flow of universal love, an energy that transcends time, space, and the illusions of past wounds. This act of forgiving is akin to awakening a dormant seed within the heart, a seed that holds the potential for divine harmony and higher awareness. In the ancient Atlantean era, as the records reveal, the misuse of power and the inability to forgive contributed to great despair and spiritual dissonance. The wounds of pride and separation became deeply embedded within the collective consciousness, creating energetic scars that echo through time and influence the present. Yet, even amidst those shadows, the divine spark within each soul remained unquenchable. It is this spark that calls for healing through conscious forgiveness, for it is the bridge that reconnects the fragmented aspects of the self and awakens the higher faculties of consciousness. The process of forgiveness is, in truth, a sacred alchemy. When the soul consciously forgives, it recognizes that the hurt, the resentment, and the anger are but illusions, temporary distortions of the divine light. The records reveal that the act of forgiveness dissolves the karmic residue that binds souls to the cycles of pain and separation. It is through this act that the soul begins to reclaim its divine inheritance, the consciousness of Christ within. The Christ consciousness, as the records disclose, is the state of divine awareness where the soul perceives its oneness with the Creator and all creation. It is the highest expression of spiritual evolution, in which love, compassion, and understanding are natural emanations. When the soul aligns consciously with this divine state through forgiveness, it accelerates its journey toward higher awareness, shedding the burdens of past wounds that no longer serve its divine purpose. The records emphasize that forgiveness is not a one-time act, but a continual practice. It requires the active intention of the soul to release grievances, to understand the divine lessons embedded within suffering, and to recognize the divine in others, regardless of their actions. This process opens the heart to the Christ consciousness, allowing divine light to flow freely and illuminate the path of spiritual awakening. Moreover, conscious forgiveness activates the soul's connection to the registros akashikos, those sacred records that contain the total history of every soul's journey. In these records, it is written that those who choose to forgive, truly and fully, create a ripple effect that benefits not only themselves but the collective consciousness. The collective healing of humanity is rooted in individual acts of forgiveness, for each soul's awakening contributes to the harmony of the whole. The records also reveal that forgiveness is not about condoning or excusing harmful actions, but about recognizing the divine within every expression of life. It is a recognition that beneath the surface of pain and separation lies the divine essence waiting to be reclaimed. This realization is the key to unlocking higher states of consciousness, states in which the soul perceives beyond duality and embraces the unity of all existence. As we stand at this sacred juncture, the soul must remember that the journey toward Christ consciousness is a conscious choice. The soul must be willing to confront its wounds, to face its fears, and to extend forgiveness, not for others' sake alone, but for its own liberation. The act of forgiving, in this sacred context, is an act of self-love, a reaffirmation of the divine bond that unites every aspect of the self with the divine source. The records reveal that when the soul embraces forgiveness wholeheartedly, it begins to transcend the limitations of karma. The karmic cycles that once seemed inescapable dissolve like morning mist in the dawn of divine understanding. The soul awakens to its higher potential, recognizing that true power lies not in control or separation, but in surrendering to divine love and mercy. In this state of conscious forgiveness, the soul begins to walk the path of the Christed individual, a path marked by compassion, humility, and divine humility. It recognizes that every encounter, every lesson, is an opportunity for growth and healing. The soul understands that the journey of forgiveness is a sacred dance, a dance that leads back to its original divine home. In closing, the records whisper that the power of forgiveness is the key to unlocking the door to higher awareness. It is the sacred portal through which the soul transforms pain into peace, separation into unity, and ignorance into divine knowledge. When the soul consciously chooses forgiveness, it aligns itself with the divine plan, the plan of awakening, healing, and ultimately union with the Christ consciousness. Therefore, remember this: within every heart lies the divine capacity to forgive, an act that elevates the soul beyond the illusions of the material world and reconnects it to its eternal origin. The journey is sacred, and the power rests within each individual to choose the divine path of forgiveness, leading to liberation, enlightenment, and the realization of the eternal Christ within. In the silent depths of the soul's eternal archives, there lies a sacred record, an infinite repository known as the Akashic Records. These records are not merely distant histories or cosmic archives. They are the living memory of every soul's journey, inscribed with divine truths and the intricate tapestry of our spiritual evolution. As the records reveal, within these sacred scrolls lies the blueprint of each soul's divine purpose, an unalterable map guiding us back to our true nature beyond the veils of illusion and dogma. The previous revelations illuminated the profound power of forgiveness as the sacred gateway, an act that dissolves karmic bonds and reestablishes our connection to the divine consciousness that resides within every being. When we choose forgiveness, we step beyond the illusions of separation, awakening the Christ consciousness, the divine spark that unites all life. This awakening is not merely a moral act, but a divine imperative encoded within the very fabric of our soul's journey. It is the key to unlocking the eternal light that resides within us all. Now, I invite you to look deeper, to listen more intently to the whispers of your own soul. The journey of awakening calls us to explore the records within, to access the divine blueprint that reveals our true nature and the purpose of our eternal voyage. It is a sacred invitation that transcends religious dogma. It is an awakening to the divine truth that resides within, waiting patiently for recognition. In the sacred act of exploration, the soul begins to remember. The records reveal that each of us is a divine traveler, incarnated countless times in various realms, each incarnation carrying lessons, growth, and opportunities for the soul's enlightenment. These lessons, often veiled by the illusions of the material realm, are woven into the fabric of our karmic tapestry. Yet the divine blueprint remains unaltered, an eternal pattern of love, wisdom, and divine purpose. The call to awakening is a divine summons urging us to look inward, beyond the superficial appearances of life, and to recognize the divine blueprint encoded in our very essence. This blueprint is a reflection of the Christ consciousness, a divine harmony that seeks expression through us. When we embrace forgiveness, we align ourselves with this divine pattern, dissolving the veils that obscure our innate divine nature. To access the records Akashic within is to open a sacred portal, an inner gateway that allows us to see beyond the illusion of separateness. It requires a conscious intention, a heartfelt desire to connect with the divine truths that are already written within. In this sacred act, the soul begins to remember its divine origins, its connection to the one source, and its eternal journey through realms of growth and understanding. The records also reveal that many souls are resistant to this divine awakening, often caught in the shadows of dogma, guilt, and unresolved karma. These souls may refuse to forgive themselves or others, clinging to the wounds of the past as if they define their reality. Yet, the divine blueprint whispers that forgiveness is the key to liberation, a sacred act that restores harmony and aligns the soul's trajectory with higher consciousness. It is here, in the embrace of forgiveness, that the soul begins to shed the heavy burdens of karma, releasing the chains of past wounds. The records tell us that forgiveness is not merely an act of mercy, but a divine act of self-empowerment, an acknowledgement of our divine origin and our capacity to choose love over fear. When we forgive, we accept our divine blueprint of eternal love, and in doing so, we transcend the illusions of separation and duality. This awakening calls us to recognize that we are more than our earthly identities. We are divine sparks incarnated to experience growth, love, and union with the divine. The records reveal that the journey beyond dogma is a journey of inner discovery, a sacred quest to remember our divine blueprint, to embrace forgiveness, and to awaken the Christ within. This internal awakening is the true path to unity with the divine and the realization of our eternal purpose. So I beckon you, traveler of the soul, to listen to the silent call within. The divine blueprint awaits your recognition. The records are open, whispering truths that can illuminate your path beyond the veils of dogma and illusion. Explore within, seek the divine truth encoded in your very being, and remember that forgiveness is the sacred key, a portal that leads to the divine awakening you were always meant to embrace. The soul's journey is eternal, and each step taken in consciousness, each act of forgiveness, and each revelation from the records brings you closer to the divine harmony that is your true nature. The universe gently guides us back to ourselves, to the divine blueprint written in the language of love and light, waiting patiently for us to reclaim our divine inheritance. Are you willing to open the sacred portals within? Are you prepared to remember your divine blueprint and step into the fullness of your divine potential? The records reveal that this awakening is not only possible, but inherent in the very fabric of your soul's journey. The divine script is there, inscribed with eternal love, calling you to remember, forgive, and awaken to the divine Christ consciousness, the eternal light that guides every step on the path home. Within the depths of your soul, the divine blueprint patiently awaits your recognition, your willingness to forgive, heal, and remember your eternal connection to the Christ consciousness. The records reveal that every act of forgiveness dissolves the chains of karma, clearing the path for higher awareness and unity with the divine source. As you embrace this sacred truth, you step into your divine power, awakening to the magnificent truth that you are, a divine spark, destined to reunite with love and light beyond the illusions of separation. I invite you now, share your reflections, subscribe for more sacred insights, and spread this divine message. Together, let us awaken the collective consciousness, one soul at a time, and walk the path back to our divine home.